Okay, so we're looking at a quick clip for Year 9 to help them with angles on parallel lines questions. You've been doing some basics last week where you've just had sets of parallel lines, but today what we're going to be looking at is slightly more complex questions where they don't look quite so obvious and they can concern you a little more just by the picture. So if we start off with something that looks like this initially, we're used to seeing parallel lines going parallel in front of our eyes. So if it helps you, whenever you're doing one of these, spin the page around so that you can see the parallel lines so they cross your eye line. Also, you're not always going to have a full set of parallel lines. So for example, in this case, they've chopped off the extra lines here and they've also chopped off the intersecting line. So it doesn't look quite so nice. This one's not too bad though, because we can tell we've got parallel lines here and here, and we can see that we've got co-interior angles, and we know that co-interior angles make 180 degrees. So for this one, all I'm going to do is have 180 degrees. I'm going to take away my 59. You can do that column if you're going to do it in your head, or you can do it vertically, or horizontally if you'd rather. Obviously, we've got 121 degrees in here. However, whenever it starts to look a little bit like a W shape or an E shape, it's not quite so straightforward. So let's have a little look. I can't work this out without doing something to the picture. So there's a little trick that you can do to make your life a little bit easier, and that is to add another parallel line. And I'm going to do that straight through the middle here. And by doing that, what I've actually done is made my life a little bit easier. And now what I can do is I can kind of isolate one half of the picture and see that what I've got here is two sets of parallel lines. I've got an angle here and an angle here, and they are co-interior. So because they're co-interior, I know that these two should add up to make 180 degrees. So if I do 180, take away 72, I know that this part of my angle in here is 108 degrees. Now, because I've cut this angle in half, I also know that this half of the angle is also 108 degrees. So to find out what I'm going to be getting for my final, I'm going to do two lots of 108 degrees, which is going to give me 216 degrees. So if you see something a little bit more complex, remember you can add in another parallel line. The same goes with a question like this, where we've got E, or what looks like an E, sorry. We're trying to find out what angle X is. Again, without putting anything in, I can't help myself. So I'm going to add in that other parallel line. And based on that, again, I can isolate. So rather than having a whole picture, I can put my hand over a section and just look at the bit that I would like. Now I know that this whole section was 140 degrees and I've cut it exactly in half. So now this section in here is half of 140. So I know that this section here is 70 degrees. And if I know that this section here is 170 degrees and I'm cutting this exactly in half, here I've got what you would have called Z angles back in the day, but we now know they're called alternate angles, and alternate angles are equal. So if this angle is 70 degrees, this angle also has to be 70 degrees. Okay, so they're slightly more complicated, more top end stuff. And then lastly, if we have a look at a question like this, which has a number of different angles all in at the same point. If we just move this board a little bit. The technology is astounding, isn't it, Year 9? Okay, so what we've got here is angle A, angle B, angle C, and there's a lot going on. If I was just to look at it as a picture, I can see I've got parallel lines, so I know I'm going to be using either my alternate or my corresponding or my co-interior. I can also see, if I isolate, I've got a triangle here, so I'm guessing I'm going to have to use angles in a triangle at some point, being 180 degrees. And I can also see I've got three angles here on a straight line. So at the minute, just by kind of reading the picture, I'm getting an idea of the facts I'm going to have to use. Let's start with A then, okay? Let's start to isolate my picture. So if I kind of, excuse for the board here, if I kind of isolate here, I can see I've got two parallel lines and an intersecting line here. So I've got 36 degrees here, and the angle A I can see is an alternate angle. It's a Z angle in the old days, an alternate angle now. And I know that alternate angles are equal. So A must be 36 degrees. Now I know A, and I know this is 36 degrees, I can go and have a little look for angle B, because here I have a triangle. And you know that angles in a triangle from your work from last week are 180 degrees. So I know that if I were to add 81 and I was to add 36, and then take those away from 180, that would tell me what B was. So 180 Take away 81, take away 36, gives me 63 degrees. Now lastly, for angle C in here, there's a couple of ways I could do this, okay? So I could see angles on a straight line again, and again know that they add up to 180 degrees. So I could do 81 and 36, and I could take those away from 180, which again would give me 63 degrees. Which is strange that both B and C are both 360, no, they're not 360 degrees, that both B and C are 63 degrees. And the other reason for that is the fact that, again, here are my parallel lines, and with this intersecting line, what I've actually got with B and C are corresponding angles. They're not quite as easy to see, so it doesn't matter if you do spot that or you don't spot that at this stage, as long as you can get to the final answer by using the angle facts that you have, then all is good. So I'm going to set you 5 or 6 of questions that look like this on today's email Year 9. Refer back to this if you've got any questions or queries. They're going to be really similar in style, and hopefully you'll get a good success rate out of it. Best of luck.